Hi, I'm Mike, and this is an intro. Alright, today we got Zurgo Bellstriker, the reprint, sorta, of Zurgo. The previous one was the same colors as red, black, and white, and he was a beast. He's terrifying, he hit hard, he was indestructible on his own turn, and he was scary. This guy, by comparison, is a 2-2 for 1. I mean, yeah, he's not indestructible, he doesn't hit for 7, he doesn't get bigger. He starts off kind of underwhelming by comparison, and his earlier version is scarier. That said, this card isn't without its advantages. It's just not nearly as completely insanely good right off the bat. You have to build around it a lot more thoroughly. In many ways, this guy, when used in an EDH deck, especially as a general, he works in much the same way as, what's his name, Norn the Wary. Norn on his own is almost completely useless, other than the fact that he enters the battlefield, and you set things up to chain off that. It's very combo-oriented, and usually screws around with your opponents, which is exactly what you'll be doing with Zurgo. The advantage Zurgo has, though, is that he can't block creatures with power 2 or greater, which means he won't block anyone who can kill him, or that he can't kill. Well, technically he can block people he can't kill, but he has at least a better chance. It also means, you can't be forced to do stuff that your opponents use. Now, in my metagame, that isn't... Forced blocks or forced attacks aren't a huge strategy, so I don't usually pay attention to that. But just so you have that, if you have that in your metagame, keep it in mind. Otherwise, that's not really all that interesting. What is, though, is the dash cost. Because it's a dash cost, for most cards I ignore that because it's I just have to recast it. But for a general, that means I can just keep using him again and again and again, and he has haste. So if I can pay 2, I can get him out. And after the first time he dies, he starts becoming cheaper to get out with dash than with his actual casting cost. The 1-drop is nice to start with. 1-drop generals I actually have a preference for because you're going to have them immediately. But the dash one, you can just keep re-churning him out. And late game, you can do some crazy things, which is really what I want to do with this guy. Specifically, I want to churn him out a lot. So Altar of the Brood, for example. I mean, this card... It's not a really good win condition. It's mostly just asset denial for your opponents. Unless you're going against someone who has really high graveyard recursion or utilizes that a ton, this will really help in just slowly taking out options from your opponents. Because you're probably going to be casting Zurgo at least once a turn, and that's just if you're doing it really slowly. If you can find some way to give Zurgo, flash, I'm pretty sure there's an artifact that does it. Honestly, I can't think of the name off the top of my head. I'm sure it'll be listed in the comments later. Someone please list it in the comments later. I'll probably find it out, but yeah. That would be interesting because you start recasting Zurgo in other people's turns. For the dash cost, of course. Because it is a casting cost. So whenever a opponent enters the battlefield, Zurgo, you'd start just, say, milling 1 every turn. As long as you have the mana. And 2 isn't hard to get. The early game you can get that quickly because it's just 2. Red has certain mana spells you can do it a few turns. Really, though, by turn 6, you could probably cast him 3 times a turn. And if you spread that out just like right before someone's turn, if we have him with flash yet, it'll do some fun stuff. What really makes it interesting, though, are the sack effects. Specifically, in my opinion, Ashnod's Altar and Phyrexian Altar. They help set off his mana cost and give you a nice little advantage to that for different enter the battlefield abilities, such as Warstorm Surge, where every time Zurgo enters, because he's a 2-2, you'll then start doing 2 damage to everything when it enters. Well, not everything, but you get what I mean. It's basically a slow churn damage deck. Now, there are other ways to do it, like, say, damage or multiplying how much damage you do, which will make the game go a lot faster. But for the most part, Phyrexian Altar, Ashnod's Altar, and Altar of the Brood are simply set up to make when it enters more useful, and the altars of Ashnod and Phyrexian for sack, so you can start casting him again, as well as getting the price. What I think is really amazing, though, is that Red has a lot of really big guys who have really high costs. Zurgo, though, can be churned into something very useful with Death Render. For the equivalent of basically 2, you're going to drop in Zurgo with Flash. you're then going to immediately equip him for 2. So that means 4 mana involvement that turn. And then you can just sack him to one of the altars. This will come in, and a creature from your hand will come and equip to this. You're going to start just churning out really big, high-cost creatures for the cost of 4 every turn. And if you do this on other people's turns with Flash, you can quickly churn out a really large army. Now, you're going to need draw mechanics with this, so I would highly recommend either Font of Mythos for the extra 2 draw, or... oh, crap, I forgot the name. It's the really old card. The 2-drop that lets you draw an extra card. Oh, wow. Howling Mind. I can't believe I forgot that. It's such a common card, too. But yeah, Howling Mind, those cards, anything that let you put things in your hand will work really well. The ending at Assault, though, is that Zurgo is going to slowly mill out everyone, both literally and with their life totals. Him attacking is almost irrelevant because you don't really need to at this point. You're going to be slowly churning out really big dragons, really big creatures. Honestly, you're just using him so that he can be sacked quickly and effectively and often. The fact that you don't almost never have to worry about his cost going above 2 because of dash is actually really useful. Now, that said, as opposed to a Norn deck, there's little advantages. You can't do the Norn thing because as soon as you target him to equip, he disappears. Zurgo, though, can be. It's a trade-off. Norn, though, is automatic, so there's no mana investment. You just have to set it up and it goes off on its own. As opposed to Zurgo, where you have to have the mana investment. But it's not too high, and like I said, with the altars, that is not an impossible cost, because that will help you. Now, you're still paying into it, so it's not going to go infinite on you. There is a way, but it's just, artifact shenanigans, really. You can figure that out. Or look it up. It's more or less the same. It has nothing to do specifically with Zurgo. But yeah, this one, he's not as scary as his main copy. The earlier version, Helm Smasher, is scarier. He does a lot more, and he saves himself a lot easier. But if you kill Helm Smasher enough, he's hard to get back, because he starts as 4, and it'll just slowly turn up 2 at a time. Bellstriker, though, dash mechanics, when used well, are very scary. Now, you have to play them always if you want them out, but they have haste, and the cost never goes up. Just set 2 lands aside, and you're pretty much set for the game. It's interesting. And really, it depends on how you play around it. The big thing with him will be, at least in my opinion, Death Render. I know I already said it, but what you bring out with Death Render will make the game. Personally, I just go dragons, drop in as many Hellkites, as many big guys, as many hard-hitting bodies as you can, and just swarm the field. That way, whenever something comes up, you're going to do something interesting. If you have any form of recursion, other things like that, bring them in. Things like getting things back from your graveyard. But mostly those will be artifact effects. Take them at your leisure. But for the most part, Zurgo and Death Render with sack abilities are what I think are the absolute best choices. Just because it gives you an advantage quickly. Oh, and any of the ninja artifacts that equip immediately when someone enters, they're useful for Zurgo because they immediately buff him stronger. But that's more of just a straight Voltron combo, and it's not really anything special to Zurgo. Alright, well, that's the video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you like it, well, subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment. Any questions, comment, critique, wanting to yell at me for random reasons? I'm not sure how you'd record a yell in a comment, but okay. Later.